Hello, my name's Alan Boldon, and I'm the Managing Director of Dartington Trust and the Founding Director of Weave. The Learning Planet Festival asks how we can reimagine learning. It may be useful to ask what our systems serve, the economy or something greater than that. How and why might we affect systems change? We see with climate how statistics are unlikely to convince people to change habits and patterns. But in a time of climate crisis, mass biodiversity loss, and obscene inequality and inequity, there's arguably never been a more vital time to press for change. The psychologist James Hillman states that statistics are unlikely to move anyone to change. He says, the motivation must come from below the superego, from the id of desire. When you love something, you want it near, not to be harmed. Beauty astounds and pulls the heart's focus out of this human-centered insanity toward wanting to keep the cosmos there for another spring and another morning. This is ecological emotion, and it's aesthetic and political at once. A number of years ago, I was asked to lead a project for the government of Luxembourg called Meeting Point. The project and the discoveries we made continue to inform my work today. Meeting Point was started to promote intercultural learning and brought together young people from around Europe and further afield. I would go on to lead the project for 12 years and transformed this annual event into a lab that brought young people together with artists who were interested in collaboration and place-based inquiry. We were looking at ways to deepen our attention and our ways of knowing each other and the wonders and complexities of place. For 3 weeks we explored forms of collaboration to experience how others worked, how they saw the world, and what their methods, approaches and disciplines might reveal of the place. I also invited people to participate who'd been selected as potential change agents in social and healthcare institutions, schools and universities. They would all report that we were going further and deeper in these 3 weeks than they did in a whole academic year. When I later got involved in academia and advising schools and universities around the world, I adapted these pedagogic and creative models for those settings. I would like now to describe one of those. In 2003, I designed an MA in Arts and Ecology for Dartington. The course came out of a series of extended conversations with artists, scientists, economists, designers, engineers, who were all experts or even leaders in their fields. They all said that there were questions that interested them that were outside of the scope of their method, or somehow beyond the reach of their discipline. They also talked about people from other fields whom they admired and who seemed to have insight that eluded them. They expressed a desire to find ways to collaborate. I shaped the master's degree as a way to bring these people together in regular learning labs designed to allow them to inhabit each other's practice. The model was simple and based upon the work in Luxembourg. We used the Dartington estate as our focus, and in turns, one of the experts led us in a brief, practical inquiry that employed their way of knowing to find out about the place. After 3 days, they rejoined the group, and a second person led an inquiry that allowed us to inhabit their practice, focused on the same place. Over a period of 3 weeks, we would employ at least 3 different ways of knowing. The process was based on our collective desire to know the place deeply and to reach beyond our habits of seeing, thinking and knowing, as well as on a relentless curiosity and the wish to try to know the world through others. This encouraged connection and a love of place and for kinds of learning and collaboration that incited a yearning for more. What became clear was that a close attention to place, any place, when approached through the prism of numerous ways of knowing, will reveal endless complexity. Hans-Georg Gadamer said that an encounter with an other and being presented with different perspectives and worldviews that may jar with our own was first of all an opportunity to know something of the construction of one's own worldview, perspective and prejudices. If both parties then engage fully in this, then there may, according to Gadamer, be ways to meet the other. I think now of a recent conversation with one of the founders of a major international consultancy committed to solving global challenges. It was clear that although they had offices all over the world, the business model and the forms of inquiry were based on North American settings. There was a stated desire to learn and gain vital insight from projects in other bioregions, but the business model dominated and overruled the potential to learn. In my work at Dartington, we've redesigned all the learning programs at Schumacher College and the New Art School. They're all focused on regenerative culture and based on the kinds of pedagogy I've started to describe here, with collaboration and community central to the learning. Short, intensive, place-based programs with online and peer support. The courses are proving to be almost overwhelmingly popular. We're currently working on a certificate in planetary health that will use an acre of land at Dartington and others across networks of schools as a focus. You'll recognise a familiar pedagogic strategy by now. The mission of my company Weave is to nurture systemic wisdom. We're currently expanding to establish learning hubs around the globe. Our focus is on leadership, learning innovation, and place. We're working to establish a coalition to reimagine learning that includes a curated portfolio of learning experiments that test out place-based models to allow the coalition and partners to devise adaptive strategies and solutions to challenges for wider dissemination, testing, and refining. Learning from and with each other is vital if we're to meet the challenges of our time. The kinds of curiosity, collaboration, criticality, and compassion I've tried to describe here seem to me to be central to this. I would go further and suggest that love needs to be at the heart of learning. A love of the places we're in, with all their complexity and wonder, along with a love of learning. A number of years ago, the activist Dan Gretton surprised me by saying we need slow activism. I mentioned this the other day when talking with Tom and Natasha Rivett-Karnak from Global Optimism. Tom replied to say that there's greater urgency now. I wonder still if, in reimagining learning, we might consider how to draw upon an urgent love, a love that attends to the wonders of our world, even in a time of crisis and emergency, perhaps especially so, and a love that does not look away when there's pain, grief and loss, or difference and injustice, a love that wants to know more, that's careful not to project, or for expectations to overwrite encounters and experience. Can there be an urgent love? Could there be forms of learning that are informed by an urgent love? A love that helps us to know that we can no longer act upon the world as if it is dead, inanimate, not part of us, but that helps us to know that we are our environment. This could be the way to empathy and be part of the solution to the great challenges we face. It might also be the way to reimagine learning based on love, empathy, and connection. I'll finish with a quote from Rebecca Solnit. To hope is to gamble. It's to bet on your futures, on your desires, on the possibility that an open heart and uncertainty is better than gloom and safety. Inside the word emergency is emerge. From an emergency new things come forth. The old certainties are crumbling fast, but danger and possibility are sisters. Thanks for listening.